Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
The scars of history run deep, and few are as searing as the devastation wrought upon the thriving Black community of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in 1921. Once known as Black Wall Street, Greenwood stood as a beacon of Black excellence, prosperity, and resilience in an era overshadowed by segregation and racial violence. Yet, in a matter of hours, this flourishing community was reduced to smoldering ashes, its people subjected to unspeakable terror and destruction. The Tulsa Race Massacre was not just an isolated act of violence, but a calculated attempt to obliterate Black success, leaving survivors and their descendants grappling with the aftermath for generations. Now, more than a century later, the pursuit of justice remains a pressing issue as conversations surrounding reparations gain momentum. The proposed $20 million in reparations for the survivors of this atrocity has ignited debates, reflections, and hopes for restorative justice. This article delves deep into the history, the enduring impact, and the ongoing struggle for reparations for the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. To understand the magnitude of the Tulsa Race Massacre and the call for reparations, it is essential to revisit the origins of Greenwood. Founded in the early 20th century, Greenwood emerged as a thriving enclave for Black entrepreneurs, professionals, and families. This community carved out its own economic success in the face of systemic racism and segregationist policies. With businesses ranging from banks, hotels, theaters, and newspapers to retail stores and restaurants, Greenwood was a testament to Black ingenuity and perseverance. The wealth generated within the community circulated among its residents, fostering economic stability and cultural vibrancy. However, this success also bred resentment among certain segments of the white population in Tulsa, culminating in a tragic explosion of racial violence. On May 31st and June 1st, 1921, Greenwood was engulfed in chaos and terror, sparked by a dubious allegation against a young Black man, Dick Rowland, and fueled by racial animosity. A white mob descended upon Greenwood. Over 35 square blocks of the community were burned to the ground, thousands of Black residents were displaced, and an estimated 300 people lost their lives. Survivors recounted harrowing tales of airplanes dropping incendiary devices, machine gun fire, and homes reduced to rubble. The massacre obliterated generational wealth and left deep psychological and socioeconomic scars on the Black community. Worse still, the aftermath saw insurance claims denied, historical records erased, and a deafening silence from city and state officials, compounding the trauma. For decades, the survivors and descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre live in the shadows of this horrific event, denied acknowledgement, justice, and compensation. The systemic neglect by government authorities allowed the physical and emotional ruins of Greenwood to persist. This collective silence gradually began to crack in the latter half of the 20th century, as historians, activists, and descendants worked to unearth the buried truths. The 1996 establishment of the Oklahoma Commission to study the Tulsa Race Riot of 1921 marked a significant step toward acknowledging the massacre. However, it wasn't until the early 21st century that serious discussions about reparations began to take shape. Reparations, in the context of the Tulsa Race Massacre, transcend monetary compensation. They symbolize acknowledgement, accountability, and an attempt to rectify historical injustices. The proposed $20 million in reparations seeks to address the profound economic devastation inflicted upon the survivors and their descendants. This figure, while significant, pales in comparison to the estimated $200 million in damages caused by the massacre, adjusted for inflation. Nevertheless, the proposal represents a crucial step in recognizing the systemic failure to protect and support the Black community of Greenwood. Supporters of the reparations argue that financial compensation is a necessary but insufficient measure. They advocate for comprehensive reparative justice, encompassing direct payments to survivors, investment in community development, educational scholarships, and initiatives to preserve the history of Greenwood. These measures aim not only to provide financial relief, but also to rebuild the social and economic fabric that was violently torn apart. The goal is to empower descendants and revitalize the Greenwood district as a symbol of resilience and renewal. Opponents of reparations often cite logistical challenges, legal complexities, and concerns about precedent. Some argue that determining eligibility and distributing funds equitably poses significant hurdles. Others question the fairness of holding current taxpayers accountable for past atrocities. However, these arguments overlook the persistent systemic inequalities rooted in historical injustices. The denial of reparations perpetuates a cycle of disenfranchisement, further marginalizing communities already burdened by the legacies of racism and economic exclusion. The push for reparations has gained traction amid broader national conversations about racial justice. The resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement and increased awareness of systemic racism have reignited calls to address historical wrongs. The survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, now centenarians, stand as living testaments to the need for urgent action. Their stories underscore the moral imperative to provide restitution while they are still alive to witness it. Legal battles have become a central arena for the fight for reparations. In 2020, survivors and descendants filed a lawsuit against the city of Tulsa, alleging that the government failed to protect Greenwood residents and continues to benefit from the massacre's aftermath. The lawsuit seeks not only monetary compensation but also investments in infrastructure, healthcare, and economic development for the Greenwood community. This legal action highlights the multifaceted nature of reparative justice, extending beyond individual compensation to systemic reforms. The proposed $20 million in reparations also raises questions about how best to honor the memory of those who suffered and perished. Memorials, museums, and educational programs play a vital role in preserving the history of the Tulsa Race Massacre. They serve as spaces for reflection, learning, and acknowledgement. However, true justice demands tangible actions that address the economic disparities that stem from such historical violence. Financial restitution, coupled with community investment, offers a pathway toward healing and empowerment. The conversation around reparations for the Tulsa Race Massacre is not isolated. It intersects with broader discussions about reparations for slavery, Jim Crow segregation, and other forms of systemic oppression. These conversations challenge the nation to confront its past honestly and to reckon with the enduring legacies of racism. They compel policymakers, institutions, and society at large to consider the moral and ethical obligations owed to those who have been wronged. As the fight for reparations continues, the resilience of the Greenwood community shines through. Despite the horrors of 1921 and the decades of neglect that followed, Greenwood's spirit endures. Efforts to rebuild and revitalize the district reflect a collective determination to honor the past while forging a brighter future. The proposed $20 million in reparations is more than a financial gesture. It is a recognition of pain, a step toward justice, and a promise of renewal. In confronting the tragedy of the Tulsa Race Massacre and the call for reparations, the nation stands at a crossroads. Will it choose to acknowledge and address historical wrongs, or will it allow the shadows of the past to persist? The answer lies in our collective commitment to justice, equity, and healing. The survivors of Greenwood and their descendants deserve more than remembrance. They deserve restitution and the opportunity to thrive once more. The journey toward reparations is complex and fraught with challenges, but it is a journey worth undertaking for the sake of truth, justice, and humanity.